Pryce, Owen Wilson, hatched a plan with Zero, Lily Kay, in Stick Season 1, Episode 4, but there's so much potential for it to go horribly wrong. After joining the cast of Stick in Episode 3, Zero immediately made some big waves with Santi, Peter Dagger, Pryce, Mitz, Mark Maron, and Elena, Mariana Trevino. They managed to turn Santi's golf game around at the end of Stick Season 1, Episode 3, but they also distracted him from his practice and took him to a quarry instead. It looked like Zero was going to be a real problem for Pryce and Santi's relationship. That is, until Pryce found a way to make a deal with Zero. Pryce wasn't able to convince Santi to come back with him from the quarry, and Elena told him that Zero was the only person he was willing to listen to after he agreed to turn down a steak dinner. Later, Pryce offered to pay Zero in exchange for them working as Santi's caddy. It may not have been entirely clear what the terms of Zero and Pryce's deal were, however, and it also wasn't clear why Mitz thought that Pryce was a happy ing idiot for striking the bargain. Pryce is paying Zero to be Santi's caddy, but he lied to make it seem like Santi's idea. Pryce knew Mitz wouldn't want a caddy, and he knew Santi would offer the job to Zero. Zero, Lily Kay, looking at Santi in Stick Season 1, Episode 3. Pryce and Zero didn't just make a business arrangement together, they also ran a hustle on Santi and Elena. Pryce agreed to pay Zero $10,000 for caddying, and he gave them his Ryder's Cup ring as collateral. Pryce knows that Santi listens to Zero but won't listen to him, so he essentially wants Zero to be his mouthpiece while Santi is in tournaments. Pryce will tell Zero what Santi needs to do to win, then Zero will relay the information to Santi and he'll actually take their advice. If Santi knew that Zero was working for Pryce, however, that scheme wouldn't work. So, Pryce and Zero hustled Santi. Pryce pretended to have such a bad case of plantar fasciitis that he couldn't caddy anymore, and he pretended to ask Mitz to do it in his stead. Pryce knew that Mitz wouldn't agree to be a caddy again, and he also knew that Santi would try to convince him to let Zero be his caddy in the next tournament. Santi did exactly that. Pryce just went along with it, and Santi left the conversation thinking it was entirely his idea. It was a nearly perfect hustle, but there were also some major glaring problems with Pryce's plan. How Pryce's plan to have Zero caddy could go wrong in Stick. If Elena or Santi find out, they'll lose trust in Pryce and Zero could still betray Pryce. Mitz was right about Pryce's plan, there are so many ways it could go wrong. For starters, if Santi finds out that Pryce hired Zero and tricked him, that revelation will totally erode the trust they're starting to build with each other. He'll realize that Zero isn't really on his side and that Pryce would do anything to win, even turning his friend against him. That may be too similar to how Santi's dad acted. Alternatively, if Elena finds out about the plan, she definitely won't appreciate Pryce's unilateral decision to manipulate her son and invite a strange person he's clearly attracted to into the RV with them. Another potential consequence of Pryce's actions could be Zero. We don't know much about Zero, and they seem like a bit of a rolling stone who doesn't mind leaving friends behind. It's entirely possible that Zero could bail at the first sign of trouble in Stick, leaving Santi high and dry and taking Pryce's Ryder's Cup ring with them. Pryce has, once again, put a lot of faith into a person he's just met, and there's no guarantee that Zero is as trustworthy as Santi and Elena have been. Pryce may end up losing one of the only keepsakes of his own failed golf career in Stick.